Pickens County Council work session of Monday, April 21st, 2025. First up is the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Councilor Scott Way.
All right, let's pray. Lord, we thank you for such a beautiful day. We thank you for being able to come together tonight and discuss business. And we just ask for your wisdom and your guidance. Lord, the golden rule is to treat each other as we would have ourselves be treated. Lord, thank you. We thank you for everybody here. We just praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's see. First item is 2A. It's going to be the second reading of the litter control ordinance. Mr. Roper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll invite Assistant Administrator Fowler forward to discuss this. I think we're set up for second reading and prepared to answer any questions you may have.
Absolutely. So, to my knowledge, no edits have been made between first reading and second reading. Seeing the discussion was pretty short and to the point for first reading, but if y'all have any additional comments or would like to see any changes?
All right, I'm going to make a motion to accept it as presented in the packet. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is going to be 2B, the recommendations from the EMS committee. Councilor Dale Holloway. What do you got for us?
All right, the EMS subcommittee met on April the 17th. The primary points of discussion involved Medic 4, which is a central station, Medic 8, which is a Hopefield Road station in Easley, and Medic 1 in Pickens. The upgrades that were needed for Medic 4 are close to being in a state of completion. The work on Medic 4 was done in-house with the building and maintenance crews. 1 bedroom, 1 new storage room were added to accommodate additional crews. And on Medic 1, the demolition of the old structure and the building of the new structure is in planning. An architect is meeting with the staff presently, and the initial design and cost estimate should be ready somewhere around April the 30th. Concerning Medic 8 on Hopefield Road, are additional crews to be added. A 2nd bedroom, bathroom, and storage room will be needed to be constructed. Due to it being a larger scope in this project, the current workload also involved with the building maintenance department, the administration is recommending that the work be outsourced to a private contractor. So at this time, the EMS subcommittee would like to make a motion to move ahead with these projects to complete, which is the completing of Medic 4, the completion of Medic 8, as well as the finalizing of the cost and design of Medic 1.
Okay, do I hear a second?
A second.
First of all, any discussion, any comments from the committee members on that? Okay, I have a question for you. So your motion is basically, to the people of TV land, is central EMS, the Commons Way, you're going to do some work there in-house.
Yes, in-house.
Okay. And then in Easley at Pope Field, you're going to contract some of that out to make that another station.
Yes.
Now, what about Medic 1?
Medic 1, we're in the process of meeting with an architect. They're working on the cost as well as the designs, and that information will come more to fruition somewhere around April the 30th.
Okay, so there's nothing substantial there in that motion?
No, basically we're just gathering information still on that.
All right, any other?
I was going to say, as a point of clarity, sorry, the Medic, the central station and the one on Hopefield Road in Easley, we are looking to do that maintenance or those upgrades right now with the current budget. And everything else that we're going to be recommending will be presented in the budget for next year.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So the Medic 4 doing it in-house and Medic 8 contracting it out. Do we have estimates or on those two projects?
Here's the issue I have, is the first one's in-house, that's less than
$5,000.
5,000. The second one, and this is, this is my issue going forward, we're gonna put that out for bid. And we sit there and say, this is what we wanna pay for it, that's what we're gonna get.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about. It's not hundreds of thousands.
I can help in that regard. There is a line item in the proposed budget for next year. I can show that information to you. That if we waited till next year, it is budgeted expense. If we go ahead and do it this year in-house, we already know that we've got that money because it's not much, Mr. Chairman, it's not much. So we think we can get that contract.
To my bigger question I was trying to get to, or going to get to, Medicaid's, doing it by contract, do we have an estimate of what that would cost? And then what is the reason for contracting it out versus in-house?
Yeah, so if I can, Mr. Chairman, I will tell you that the thought process with contracting that out is because the building maintenance regular workflow that they have to do right now, plus I've added into their workflow remodeling all of our recycling centers this summer. And so their plate is full. We think we can efficiently do this with a local contractor and get it done here expeditiously in the next few weeks. We would like to be prepared when July 1 comes to have this session already in line so we can hire those employees that we're going to go from 12 to 24 is our thought process.
Okay, so my understanding, looking at the capital budget, a lot of that's actually in the capital budget, which you could just look at and see that, so that's gonna get taken care of.
That's correct.
Those to fund the extra station in Central, and easily they're gonna go from 12 hours to 24 hours, that's in the budget as well, we'll include that in June. And then the medic one is gonna have to come from the general fund, but we're not gonna deal with that for another month or so.
Right, it's in the proposed budget that y'all have given first reading to. We'll have to talk about that.
Okay, is there any other questions? Okay, those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign, passes unanimously. All right, next item up is a review of the South Carolina opioid recovery funding application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask if Collaboration Manager Jessica Barney would come forward. She's been spearheading our efforts with the opioid fund. She's going to give you a brief overview and then talk about some applications we've received from outside the county.
So the recovery fund, we spoke about it several months ago, and the direction was to come back with the applications and present that to you all to assist with making that decision and having council have ownership of the decision of how we move forward with these smaller nonprofits and some faith-based nonprofits. In between that meeting and now, I did speak with the SCORE program administrator, Roberta Brannick, and she said that the SCORE board does welcome those smaller faith-based organizations because individuals will go to them that may not go to a larger organization. It helps to broaden the reach across the community. And each of these applications that have been presented are only for a 1-year term, so it's giving them a chance to utilize these funds that they may not otherwise be able to receive, particularly because they may not have a grant coordinator as part of their organization or have the resources to be able to apply for this funding or other funding that may be available to them in the same way that larger organizations would. Previously, we have very successful programs that are occurring with Behavioral Health Services of Pickens County, Clemson University, and Prisma Health. So those are ongoing programs, particularly behavioral health serving in our detention center, which immediately impacts the county. And now we are looking at broadening our reach as the county with our guaranteed political subfunds to possibly recommending the Alabaster House, In His Arms Ministries, and PlaySafe for guaranteed political subfunds. And we are only requesting that the county give a letter of recommendation to those organizations so that they can submit their application on behalf of the county for this funding. The SCORF board will then look over all of these applications with a fine-tooth comb, ensure that all of the information lines up with their core strategies, and then will approve or not, dependent on that. We can also add in our letter of recommendation line item severability, which means if they do find something in the application that they don't think fits, they can strike that one line, but then still be able to fund a majority of the project.
So specifically, you're asking us to send those recommendation letters?
Yes, it would be a recommendation letter from the county administration is how we've handled it in the past, but we want to have county support, county council support to know that these organizations match the county council's vision for the county.
Okay, I'll make a motion to do that. Can I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
So is it optional that we put this line item, or are you proposing that the letter of recommendation we send says we give you the power of line item veto?
Yes, ma'am. That way we make sure that if there is anything that does not fit, for example, in our application from Behavioral Health Services of Pickens County and for the detention center and for our judicial case manager, there was an item in there that was for gift cards to come from Walmart to give each individual person an option to have necessities as they are exiting the detention center. That line item was vetoed by the SCORF board simply because it's not as accountable as some other ways of accounting for that fund. Makes perfect sense, but it was a reasonable ask because they wanted to be able to give that person something to help them as they were exiting the detention center and getting into treatment to be able to purchase personal items.
Yeah. Okay.
Hygiene items, things like that. It was not a very specific, it was a very specific item. It just did not fit the core
But
strategies.
kept the whole thing from getting.
And it kept us from being rejected for the whole thing and going back to square one.
For context, Mr. Chairman, I would like for Ms. Varney to talk a little bit about the big picture here, where this money comes from, how it's divided, what the political subdivisions have to do, how some of the political subdivisions might not have done what they need to do that will remain nameless, and where we stand in this, if you could address that.
In your supporting documentation, you'll see that Pickens County is not at risk of losing any of our funds to reallocation to the discretionary fund. There's the guaranteed political subfund and the discretionary fund. Any organization, nonprofit, can always apply for the discretionary funding. In fact, some of these, at least one of these that is applying for guaranteed political subfunds has also entered an application in this last round for the discretionary funds. That is an extremely competitive process because it's a smaller amount of money and they're up against a lot of organizations. And as I said previously, they may not have a grant writer on staff. They probably don't. And so they're up against some of these bigger organizations that may be going for this discretionary funding. It's more competitive. If we support them in this, then they are getting more of a guaranteed starting point. A lot of other counties and municipalities throughout the state are on that list that at risk of reallocation of their funding to the discretionary fund because it wasn't spent in that 3-year time frame. And so it will be rolling into that. That's not where our county is, but we're looking into that as well of just knowing what's out there and what would be coming into the discretionary fund that we may be able to encourage our nonprofits in the county to apply for as well.
Okay, so the bigger picture was a $26 billion settlement between these pharmaceutical companies and, I guess, individual states.
Yes,
South Carolina is getting $360 million of that. Pickens County is going to get $6.4 million of that, and $1.9 has been allocated so far. Now, what you're asking for is recommendations for Alabaster House for $259,000, His Arms Ministries $109,000, and Play Safe $110,000.
Yes.
So that's it.
It also broadens the population that we are serving. Right now, we have a lot of focus on the population of our detention center, which is individuals in that prison system. Those are one of the core strategies that SCORF addresses, but this will also broaden it to more recovery, which our partnership with Clemson University and Prisma Health is doing treatment of women and babies with neonatal abstinence syndrome, but they also do wraparound services that help with the recovery process afterward. And so Play Safe would actually be more of the prevention. So it's talking to middle and high school students that are student athletes that may get injuries that may then be prescribed something by a doctor that they would then take and then think that they are doing as they should by taking something and then end up having some adverse effects from that. The two houses are the Alabaster House and Hallie's House. Those are recovery homes for women that are specifically putting them in a program that would allow for long-term recovery.
Mr. Chairman, I actually want to ask a question about Play Safe. You may or may not know the answer to, but one of my bigger concerns is on paper, this looks fantastic. I love the idea. I think it's very creative on the prevention front. But if you look at where the cost is going, they currently are operating out of Anderson County. They have some stuff going on in Anderson County, nothing in Pickens County, and every dime that they've allocated goes to hire a director. Are they embedded in our school district already, or our school system, or rec departments already? Do we know that?
I don't know that for sure. When this application came to us, I did ask that, and I was told yes, but I don't know that from the school district side or from any of our rec center sides. But the individual that presented it to me said, yes, we already have programs in Pickens County. The same application that they presented to us was presented in Oconee County and approved by the SCORF board for Oconee County and presented to Anderson and approved for Anderson, which is why they're already in Oconee and Anderson.
So they hired two directors.
The
One in Oconee
application
and one
is
in
showing a
Anderson.
director for each of the counties. Yes.
Okay.
The other thing there is, this is, I think, supported here, is that this is an annual process.
Right.
We as a county will be reapplying every year. They're gonna have to demonstrate some positive.
I just want to make sure, I was curious if there's a way to ensure that the money was spent.
In Pickens County. That is the goal of the application, that it would put individuals in Pickens County schools.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion?
On that question, is there an enforcement tool in that to make sure
They
that?
just want to get it next year.
Yeah.
If they do not meet the standards along the way, they would not be approved again. They have to complete quarterly reports to SCORF, so there is a mechanism in place. Yes, sir. So that they can show their progress and count how many individuals they are impacting with their services. This would be youth, which we don't currently have a program that does that through our SCORF funding.
I want to say just one more thing real quick, is I really appreciate our staff staying on top of this money and making sure it gets allocated, because this was a lot of money that was done from a lawsuit, and from what we're hearing, not everyone's taking advantage of it, so thank you for spending money and getting it to the people who need it.
Council Lane?
Yep. So do we have direct communication with SCORE to be able to say, to ask those questions for accountability, making sure that they're using it?
Yes, I've got a contact with SCORF. I talked to Roberta Brannick, who is their program administrator, and whenever an application is approved, we receive a letter stating the amount that was approved, anything that happened to be taken out from the application, and that goes to our administrator, and it's on the record. Then with the reporting, that generally comes back through me and then on to Roberta, so that it's reported back to the SCORF board.
Okay, good.
Mr. Chairman, can we put that language in as pretty as we want in the recommendation letter? Because that's all we're doing is for the funds to be utilized in Pickens County. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, it's all good for me.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments? Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign, passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item up is, let's see, rec fund. So speaking about accountability, I'm gonna present on this. It's easy to just hand the money out in these instances. And, the follow-up, I think a lot of cases has been actually poor. I'll give you a first-hand example I want everybody to hear. My predecessor gave the city of Pickens $200,000 in rec money from 2016 to 2020. When I was elected in 2021, the city came to me for $100,000 to J.C. Park. And I just said to them, okay, show me the receipts for the $200,000 you got the last 4 years. They produced $54,000 in receipts, that was it. Now, likely the rest of that money was spent elsewhere in the government. Now, I'll give you another example where more follow-through is needed. Last year, we gave $23,000 to one project in my district. I called them last month. They haven't even started the project yet. So I see Andrea. Is that Andrea Wagner? Hey, Andrea, I know you're on the rec committee. You're working with Allison. You're with that committee?
Tyler Merck.
Oh, Tyler Merck. Okay, yes. Andrea, just stand up and just tell us as far as what you're seeing in terms of accountability, money being spent as promised. You can, yeah.
So while we were reviewing the applications this year for 2025, we came across a couple of things that should probably be brought up. We came across 2 applications. One was for 6 Mile and one was for Dacusville that noted they had requested funding last year but had not received anything. Thank you. That's okay. We looked into that issue first before we got into the additional requests this year. Tyler Merck found that for 6 Mile, the funds had been sent to City Hall, placed into their general fund. Seeing this, the Recreation Department was able to communicate with City Hall and place their order for the requested items. In Dacusville, it was found that the funding had been sent to an old mailbox, so a new check needed to be cut. And these funds are now being used as intended to renovate a kitchen for summer cooking classes. We also found a smaller issue of note in Liberty, where the funds were received in July, but the rec department was not aware of them until November because they were sent to a main mailing address for the city and deposited into the general fund. And the rec director was not notified until he started asking about the funds. We'd like to tie up some of the loose ends that we're seeing. Some ideas that the board had discussed are: 1, a letter being sent to the funds requester upon funding being released. The letter should contain amount funded. This is important because the amount does not always match the request. 2, a funds release location, because this is often different from the person requesting the funds. So a PO box, contact person, etc. And then 3rd, a funds intended use. Next, we would like to see follow-up done 6 to 8 weeks after the letter is sent, funds are released. Follow-up to be done by county council representative or board to ensure that funds were received and orders being placed for requested materials. And then 3rd, an additional follow-up to be done before the next year's request to ensure funds have been used as intended. This could include a site visit, pictures on the next request, etc.
Okay, stay where you're at. When these applications drop on your desk for your area, first thing I think what I would do and I would suggest is call a committee member in your area. And that's what I do. I call Andrew. And they'll get you up to speed on the requests in your area because they've actually just been combing through this the last month. And the second thing is you can tell they're doing more and more follow-up. I think you can work together with them on that. Like I said, that's what happened in Pickens. The money probably went into the general fund account. They started spending it, and all of a sudden they realized, well, wait a second, this was earmarked for Bruce Field, and they spent $54,000 on it. Nobody would ever know. So I think there's a lot of that going on. But what I would like to do is go down the list that we have here. We'll go through each district, and then you just say, council will say, hey, I agree with the recommendation. I don't agree with the recommendation. This is how I want to change it.
Can we respond to her first?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because she has made some recommendations.
Yeah, fine.
I was just going to ask, I'm kind of embarrassed we haven't been doing that. Like the fact that we're mailing out tens of thousands of dollars without a letter that says, here's your tens of thousands of dollars. Right. So thank you for making that recommendation.
You're welcome.
I agree with everything you said, except for that it needs to be followed up in 6 to 8 weeks. Just because I know some of what gets funded is like programming, like swim lessons. If they get money from October, they're not going to spend it in 6 to 8 weeks. So maybe if you're writing up a new way that this works, maybe that timeline can be, or a time that is appropriate or something, give a little flexibility on that time. But I appreciate your board taking this step back and fixing the process. So thank you.
Yeah, and I would imagine you could just do that as a board and make a recommendation to Tyler, right? Is that how it works?
No, we provide staff assistance. The rec's a little different than ATAX. You hear,
Yeah.
ATAX already does a lot of this sort of thing. Rec's always been more sensitive, and I think some of y'all know that history.
Okay, so let's go one district at a time and look at the recommendation from the committee. If you agree with it, say so. If you don't, recommend how you want to change it. If you need to do more research, there's nothing wrong with that, and just passing it, and we can look at yours and make that to the council meeting. So, District 1, we have Council Linville. You've got your list. What are your thoughts?
I was, as y'all have seen, District 1 had a lot of money that's been saved up because we haven't had a lot of requests come in. So I've been talking to the city for the past 2 years to try to build up their request. And so they came in with a project that ties into an overall major focus that Clemson has been doing, which is expanding the Green Crescent Trail and linking a series of parks and a new park they just bought that they're turning into an orchard. So I'm very pleased that they came to us for this request because it's going to help speed up something that they've only been able to do piecemeal. So I know that this is a large number, but this district went years with very little or even handing some money over to District 2. So I'm recommending in full that we follow the rec board's recommendation and accept these.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion as we go.
Okay.
Your motion is?
My motion is to accept the recommended fundings for District 1.
Okay, and I'm going to second that. Any discussion? This is final, right? This is a work session. This is final. This is done. It's not going to the May thing.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Okay, District 2, Council Wallace. You got two. Yeah, you go. Go listen.
It doesn't have an application.
Oh, I got you.
Do you want mine?
Yes, if you got it handy.
I do.
You want me to do District 3 next, and then you can look at that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, District 3, Pickens Rec, 30,000, Haggard Mill, 21,700 was recommended by the committee. Table Rock State Park was 6,200. Pickens County YMCA as part of a joint effort, I guess, with 3 districts, 33,333. I like the recommendations. I actually spoke to the rec department. I spoke to Haggard Mill. I spoke to somebody on the committee about the 6,200, the YMCA I have now. We've actually worked with them for years. No issues there. Let me just explain to everybody why, and Andrew, I'll explain to you why I insisted that Pickens match us, the city of Pickens match us on the playground equipment. It's J.C. Park, $60,000 playground equipment in that big green area they got. Now, we're going to put up 30, they're going to put up 30. Did this for 2 reasons. One, if they're paying half of it, they got some skin in the game to make sure that our 30 actually makes to the playground equipment, because they got 30 in as well. The second thing is they get $500,000 a year in, is it hospitality tax? Yeah, I think hospitality. Yeah, so that's for them. So they can give some of that money. Easily it's $2 million a year they get in hospitality tax. Liberty has less. I don't know, Central, I don't know if they have a hospitality. But some of these cities, they get a good amount of money from tourism. So if it's a big entity, I'm going to ask them for a match, typically in my area. So that's why I asked for the 30,000. They agreed to that. So I am going to make a motion to accept those 4 recommendations of the committee and fund those.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on District 3? Those 4 items, a total of $61,233.33. Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously.
Okay with the recommendation.
District 2,
Yes.
which is
6 Mile thing with the cameras at the park. I think they could probably do a little more research and we can come up with an option for that.
okay. So the recommendation from the committee is $25,000. $25,000 to the town of Central. 25,000 to the town of 6 Mile.
Which is what we typically done.
Typically done. Okay. Are you familiar with that? Could you? I'm just curious. What are they spending it on? Do they give you an itemized list typically?
That's like I had it in the house.
Okay. All right.
Andrew,
Yeah,
you had
they
it?
have to include an item
Yeah,
budget as part of the application.
All right. That's all I need.
It's all broken down.
Okay.
It's primarily all that Ponderosa Park, 6 Mile.
So you're gonna make a motion for District 2.
I believe we do it as requested, as the committee has requested.
Second.
Any discussion on District 2, Town of Central, $25,000. Town of 6 Mile, $25,000. Those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Okay, District 4, we got the City of Liberty. The request from the committee is $50,550 for the City of Liberty. YMCA is that other piece of that, $3,333. Pickens County Board of Disabilities is $4,600. Mr. Lane, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm looking at those right now also.
You can pass on them if
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah, I can't.
If you want to. District 5. I am going to start with District 5 because Prisoner's got a Prisoner Foundation has a $12,000 request. Mr. Bowers works for Prisoner, unrelated because the foundation and Prisoner are two different entities. But I actually spoke to the committee about this. It's the park across the hospital, across 135. It's got a walking trail there by Baptist Easley, crossing that 76 gas station. The foundation owns the park, not the hospitals. It's unrelated. The foundation is requesting money for damages that occurred during Hurricane Helene for $12,000. Is that true? Okay. I saw no problem with it. Does anybody see any issue with it?
My only question is, are there other funds they can hit for? Like
the foundation?
I don't know. I just feel like money was coming from a lot of places for holding and recovery.
I don't know. Did you discuss that in committee?
They actually requested $44,000. We only felt comfortable funding them for about $12,000, since that seemed to be the actual damage. The rest of it was like improvements and things like that. So we actually only recommended to fund them for a portion of what they were requesting.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve that $12,000. So I hear a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Councilor Bowers abstains. Okay, District 5, Councilor Bowers, you got it.
I'll make a motion to approve the remaining of District 5 from the committee, 36.5 for the City of Easley, the YMCA, and then the 500 for the Board of Disabilities.
I will second that. So that's that third piece going to the YMCA that's being divided. Any discussion about the City of Easley getting $36,500, Pickens County YMCA getting $33,333, Board of Disabilities $500 from the Rec Department District. Those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. Okay, District 6, Councilor Holloway.
I'll be reading from the actual minutes. It appears that the spreadsheet that we're given is inaccurate of 6,200. And correct me if I'm wrong on that. If we are, we'll deal with that in just a moment. I would like to recommend that we fund the Dacusville Community Club for $12,500 per requested. And then looking at the Dacusville Recreation Department, I would like to basically to table that to May the 5th. I need time to actually speak with some of the individuals in this department. They have an unusually high request. I actually did visit the field. A lot of this actually pertains to deferred maintenance that should have been done probably several years ago. And so, but I would recommend at this point, after deferring it to May the 5th, to come back and revisit this. Also meet with them and get a list of priorities of what top 3, top 5, whatever would be, because I'm assuming we will not be able to meet that total goal of $634,000.
Do I hear a motion? Make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
It was $12,500?
Yes.
I'll second that. Just bigger picture for those out there. The county, we allocate $300,000 for recreation, divided by 6 districts is $50,000 per district. So that's what we're out. That's why we're going through each district. Everybody has $50,000. Some people, in the case of this Council Linville, some years she didn't allocate the money, so she actually has some more than saved up. So that's what's happening. Okay, so the motion on the table is $12,500 from District 6, Dacusville Community Club. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Passes unanimous. All right. District 4, Council Lang. You wanna, how do you feel about it? You can pass on it to May 5th if you're not sure.
I think I have a couple questions on for the city of Liberty that I need to look at.
Andrew, you got any insight into those recommendations?
Sure. So for the City of Liberty, I talked with the rec director, Josh. They are also requesting funding to fix something that was damaged during Helene. They have a whole bunch of like light poles, I guess, that were really in bad shape, and then Helene came through and made them 75% worse. So they're a mess. So that's definitely something that would need to be done. And then the other two that we'd like to fund from District 4, we looked into the percentage of children that go to the Pickens County YMCA for the swim classes. The highest percentage of the whole county came from Liberty area schools, so Liberty Primary and Liberty Elementary. So that's why we split that 10,000 into 3 pieces and gave the slightly bigger piece to Liberty of 1 cent. We actually thought about splitting it just in half and having Liberty fund half of it from the Liberty district, but ended up splitting it 3 ways because there were a large percentage from the other 2. And then for the Pickens County Board of Disabilities, that camp and the children that benefited from the basketball or baseball camp looked to mostly be from Liberty area also. So we dug into who had gone to it previously, found out most of the kids were from Liberty area, so decided to fund it, hopefully from Liberty.
Okay.
You want well, here's a suggestion. What I would do if it was me, the $50,000 is a big chunk of change. And they're actually behind on spending what they've gotten last year.
They're almost.
What I would do is I would take a trip with Andrea, go there and put your eyes on how much you gave them last year, where they're at on that. And then I'd put my eyes on this $50,000 too, what they want for it.
That's the one I'm concerned about.
Yeah, and the other 2 we can just approve now. I hear a motion on those other 2?
Yeah, I'll do that. Let's motion that we approve the YMCA funding and Board of Disabilities.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay, and then the May 5th, Megan, we're gonna have the final 2 pieces for District 6 and District 4 on the agenda. And just, I would go with Andrew.
Yeah.
You live in Liberty.
I live in Liberty, yeah. So can I say one
Sure,
thing?
yeah.
The main issue I kind of ran through at the beginning, though, is that Liberty didn't even get their funds until November because it got thrown into the general fund. So he actually only started ordering the scoreboards, I believe, in December. And scoreboards take a little time to come in, and then obviously it was winter. So he just got the first one up at the old football stadium. That one went up maybe 3 to 4 weeks ago. And I believe he's working on the next one at the next field now. So he may have all the scoreboards actually in Liberty. I'm just not sure if they're all up yet.
Is it 2 or 3 from last year?
I want to say it's 3. I know they were also able to get some. So Nettles also replaced some of their scoreboards last year. Liberty had originally submitted a request for $72,000 and revised it down to $41,000 because they were able to get some secondhand ones from Nettles. So I'm not sure where the secondhand process is at right now, but we can check into it.
Well, you were doing a great job.
Yeah,
I'm impressed. Okay, I'm gonna, any other discussion on those 2 items?
I just want to say thank you to everybody for continuing the YMCA swim lesson program. That has been a phenomenal thing. So thank you guys for continuing that work.
Any other discussion on that?
I just have one question process-wise. I know every once in a while we get emergency rec funding requests. A lot of us just voted to take our pots down to close to 0. When does the 50K hit back again? Is that July 1st?
July 1st.
Okay.
So no, but the money we're spending now is July 1st.
Okay, well, July 1st, but this may be the July 1st money. You're right about that.
So it's not like these checks are gonna go out tomorrow.
Actually,
This is what my wife accuses me of all the time. I spend the same money twice. But.
well, so, and I want to be clear about that. That's a great point. According to the spreadsheet, the money is available, the available funds are, and some of them are below 50,000, so that would make you think that is what is sitting in that account today.
But it doesn't have the 50.
I'll verify that with Mr. Garino. My understanding is it's July 1, we refresh it, but it could be that this is anticipation of July 1, which is.
But this
Well,
couldn't be below 50.
Nobody would be below 50. And there's a 42,000 on there.
Ralph provided Tyler with an updated list from Eunice before
Yeah,
the committee met.
Yeah, we'll send that out.
So we really don't know. We don't know if it's, we're spending the July 1 money or we're spending
Right.
You should
Last
be
one,
spending
right.
fiscal year 25 money, but we'll confirm.
25? Okay.
Okay, which means.
So then another 50's coming on July 1st.
We'll confirm
Should
that.
be, but we will
Okay.
confirm.
Don't get your
Okay, it
hopes.
doesn't matter, but I'm just.
It does matter.
It does, but we'll confirm.
Well, because, or I guess it matters because you would mail the checks tomorrow then, right? If it was current fiscal year. If it's July 1st, you wouldn't be mailing them tomorrow, would you?
This is the most organized and efficient that it's gotten to you all, I guess, so I don't know that we can draw, I don't know that we can draw those conclusions.
Okay,
And we
all
have
right, that's
letters.
I mean, it does sound really like how she described it. Some of them didn't even know they had the money. So that would have to be at 25.
I appreciate y'all's efficiency on
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's big.
This is a brand new committee and they took it very seriously.
Yeah.
So-
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, it's a lot of money that's just
It is.
being given out, you know.
Good job.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew,
Thank
thank you very much. Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, say yes. Andrew, thank you very much. Yeah, like I said, accountability's improving. I think it's great. Good job. All right, last item, got here quickly, is the accommodations tax applications. That's gonna be Ms. Allison Fowler, I believe, right?
Yes, she will have with her, I believe, Ms. Katie Corbin, who's been serving with this committee for a good bit of time as well.
I got information for y'all. So in your packet, I believe we provided a accommodations tax overview. So I know we have some new council members. Did y'all have any questions about the breakdown of state accommodations tax that I can answer before we get started?
The 30 versus 60, you mean?
And how it's spent?
My understanding is that 30% actually has to be given to like one or two organizations that advertise tourism in our county. Is that what the 30% is for?
Yes. They have to market Pickens County as a whole
Okay.
and prove that they have an ongoing tourism promotion program. So
Okay.
it can't just be a brand new.
Gotcha. So that's in the law. I read that in my own document. Okay, so start with the 30% recommendations.
Okay.
We got a bunch of applications. The 30% one.
Wait, you can't start a new program? You just said it has to be ongoing. We can't fund someone starting to advertise.
My understanding of that is what that means is you can't say, hey, I've got a great idea for this year, we're gonna promote tourism in Pickens County this way, give us your money. It's gotta be an ongoing concern, it's gotta be an entity that's in this business. It could be a first-year entity, but it's gotta be an ongoing concern.
Okay.
I think that's just to prove that they know what they're doing.
Okay.
With the money. So we had 8 applications for the 30% fund, and as a reminder, we closed this whole amount of money, which was $89,693. Took the $3,000 out and then gave Lake Hartwell Country the remaining amount.
All right, Council Linville, I know you got some questions on this.
Yeah, I got a lot of questions on that. Okay, so I was curious why in a couple places it said, we're not recommending chambers of commerce because they haven't proven that they can advertise the whole county and work with other chambers. But then in other places, chambers of commerce were recommended for ATAX funding.
They were recommended for 65% funding, which does not require marketing of the county as a whole. So
Okay.
you could do a one-off program that's specific to Clemson or specific to Pickens. Now, we did attempt to meet with all 4 chambers in Pickens County and encourage them to come together with a program together, to work together. I think 2 of the 4 attended that meeting, 3 of the 4 attended that meeting, and yet they all submitted individual applications.
So I talked with the Clemson Chamber, and I mean, when I'm looking at their project overview, the Adventure First campaign they went in for, it specifically talks about marketing the entire county. And the Clemson Chamber is pretty sophisticated with their the software they have. Like, they were telling me cool stuff. When someone comes to a Clemson football game, they can tell you which airport they flew into. They can tell you how many restaurants they ate at while they were there. They can track a person down to everything they did over a 2-day time period. Like they've got, it is scary, but they have so much data. And also Clemson has 89% of the hotels in Pickens County, which means they're the ones, people staying there is where the money is coming from. Like the majority of the money we're spending tonight is because people are spending the night in Clemson. So it was strange to me that they were just not recommended for this when the law specifically lists chambers of commerce as people who are qualified to do countywide programming. And I mean, they're talking to me, they don't, just because you might sleep in Clemson, you're going to go all over. I mean, all the hiking is outside of it and that sort of thing. So it concerned me that they were just said.
That was included in their application,
Yeah.
but a lot of what the committee questioned in discussion about it was, are they actually sharing that information with other chambers or other businesses or events? Their application didn't indicate that they were.
Well, no, they're not right now because they haven't had county funding. I think they're obvious. If the county pays for this, we'll share it with the county. If we're paying for it, we'll keep it here. So I think the county would really benefit from everybody having access to
So
it.
I think the committee's main concern in that is that they want them to show proof that they are willing to do that, share that information, and establish to where they are promoting it as a whole and not just for the Clemson area.
Okay.
I think that was their biggest concern this year. They were in favor of the applications. There were just concerns for this being the first year of it being an actual application process for 30%.
Right.
They were a little.
Well, here's my thought on this is that we have the other group, the Upcountry and Discover. One of them is based in Pendleton and one of them is based in Greenville. So we're sending money out of the county for people to promote the county. We now have an organization in the county that says that they're willing to do it and they think they can handle it. So I would love to maybe bring these two organizations in and ask them to present to us, how would you market the whole county? Like if you got this funding, which is $89,000, can we get the guys who came in last year? We asked them to go back and redo their program and they did. Can we get them to come in and tell us, how are you going to market the county? And then get the Clemson Chamber to come in and say, how would you market the county? And then we can pick which one this council thinks is a better marketing of the county. Are we allowed to do that?
You're definitely allowed to do that, yes. I would say from a staff perspective, and this would really run out of our communications and engagement department, so I don't want to speak for Jamie, but Katie can chime in since she's in that department. I think the concern would be consistency with that marketing. We're already working with Lake Hartwell Country and Discover Upcountry because of the money that they received in the fall. So that's an ongoing project. They're developing a tourism website for us based on that application. And I would have a little bit of concern if we didn't repeat that with them.
The website would just die?
The website wouldn't die, but we're going to do this with them for a year and we gave them money to do it, and then we're going to switch gears and go to a different organization. Ultimately, it is up to y'all. It would be easier at the staff level to have some consistency year over year, but we'll work with whatever we get.
What website is that?
It's not live yet.
So for example, when we met with them last year, did they give you an itemized list to spend the money on? Do you know? When we gave them $96,000.
I believe there was an itemized budget.
Could you look at that, Katie? When I looked at their application, I didn't see that. Just, it's gonna take you a while because there's a few files that are there. So my first thing was that, are they giving you an itemized list of what they spent it on? And that's what I do. Like with the rec center in Hagenville, they requested 3 things last year for rec money. And I asked them for an itemized list of what we spent it. I went out there and looked at it. So I mean, that was $17,000. This is $96,000. Did anybody do that? That's my first question. The second thing is, when we looked at what they were doing last year, and we were all here except East Lang and Mr. Holloway. I thought their stuff was kind of vague, which was, come hiking, come boating, which I would rather see. Okay, Pickens County has 5 parks. We're going to market those parks. We got 10 events that we think are on top drawers, and we're going to market those events specifically. I would like to see something more tailor-made to us. Mm-hmm. Now, that would be revamping what you've been working on. I don't know if we're going to do it or not, but that's just my only 2 thoughts on what she's saying. Just kind of echoing what she's saying, but you know, maybe trying something different, but it would be a little bit different. Now, I don't have an issue with the Holly Springs item for $3,000, that's fine, but the $96,000, I don't know, I wasn't super impressed with what they were doing. How about you?
I get what they're doing, and I get that it's built up. I am reluctant, having worked on websites that take a year to put up. I do understand that if all that work went in and we suddenly do it, and then the information's gonna become outdated if we're not paying them to keep it going. I get that. So I'm balancing that between the fact that I would love to see what the Clemson Chamber can do with all of this data, and they wanna do a digital campaign that pairs with the data. I'd just love to see what happens with that, but, you know, marketing is always hard to.
Based on their request, I mean, you'd not be dropping down the other one that far. They're only requesting 10,000.
Well, they had the two things. They had the 10,000 for the software, and then they had
That's
the
right.
bigger one to do a 6-month digital campaign based on the information they got from the software.
That's right.
Do you feel confident with Lake Hartwell's doing? Do you think that they're going in the right direction?
I do.
You do?
And they're very willing to work with us. They want direction from staff.
The only
They're not
direction I
doing it
would
on
give
their
just
own.
coming from
That's
me is
good.
try to make it more specific. Like I said, I didn't realize this is kind of like changing the course of the tanker, oil tanker.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I thought we could just do it, but I don't like I can't. So I'm okay with what you're doing. It's just if you can move it more towards specific events, if you have an opportunity to do that, I think that would be a good idea. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I have a couple of questions. Was there reluctance from the Chamber of Commerce to get together? You said one just
It
didn't.
felt that way. Clemson was actually the one that did not attend.
And that's my next question. How would you go about confirming they would share their data with us? Would there have to be some kind of official agreement written up, I would think?
I mean, we could write it in a
It wouldn't have to be, but that would be really strong. That would be a strong thing. Years ago, you'll remember the tour Pickens County. That was a handshake, and it didn't really.
Never could.
No.
With anybody.
Right.
And I think the committee would be very much in favor of that.
You know what? I'm sorry.
If I may add to that, that's what I was thinking is, can we say we decide, okay, we go ahead and give Clemson the 10,000, but require them to share that data with the other chambers so that they can use it, make that stipulation. If they don't, next year.
Can you
You
do
can
that?
put whatever stipulations you want on it.
It's legal, but it is.
We already requested all ads get approved by our staff. So that would just be an added.
If we take 10K away from Discover Our Country, that one though, will that impact the quality of the website they're creating?
I don't think it would impact the quality, no.
I mean, they might have some fewer ads they can run and stuff
Right.
like that, but we can still
But
continue
that's
to
not a
turn
significant
the
amount.
tanker can continue going. Yeah.
And I mean, they're still working with what they received in October, so, you know, they haven't had a lot of time to get it off the ground, so.
I do like what you're doing. You're basically saying, here's the rules, we're gonna apply the rules. And I like the idea that if there was a mandatory meeting, you have to show up, and if you don't, you're out. Now, did they have enough opportunity to know about that meeting to show up, you think? They did.
Yes.
Pretty confident about it. Okay, good.
And they knew it was mandatory.
Okay.
It was very clear.
It was stated in the notice.
Okay, so what do you want to do here with this?
I'm tempted to allocate 10K away from the Upcountry Partnership to Clemson Chamber, Clemson Area Chamber, for the software under the agreement that they share data. And then maybe they can lead some kind of training session with, or invite some of the people hosting some of these events and say, here's how you can use this data to help you out. You know, because it's hard to, we don't want to put the chamber in the business of taking calls every day from anybody who wants data, but Brian over there explained to me it's pretty easy to get. And let's see what a year of people having access. I mean, for one thing, it should make their applications for APACs next year much better because we could actually see who's coming there. I read a lot of these that just say, we're pretty sure people are driving in. We don't know how many people came. We don't know if they stay overnight. Maybe by giving this software, everybody access to this, we can get really good applications for next year and make sure that we're funding places that truly are bringing in APAC money.
So when you say everybody, who's everybody?
I mean, it's up to them if they want to access the data.
Well, and I think as
You
long
mean
as
other
the
applicants?
county has access, if applicants were to request from us,
Yeah, there you go.
then we could find the
That's
information rather than relying on the chamber.
That's fine.
So you're gonna be the one that's gonna have access to the data, and then you can share it selectively. Is that what the motion is?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's hear your motion.
I'll second that.
Yeah, my motion is to reallocate from the recommended funding of Upcountry, reallocate 10K of that to the Clemson Area Chamber of Commerce for the purchase of the software under the agreement that the county have full access to data and, or to the ability to use that software.
Okay, so I'm gonna second it, so we're gonna give it Lake Hartwell Country, $76,693. Clemson Chamber, $10,000, and $3,000 to the Holly Springs Center, is that correct? That's my second, okay.
And that's workable with the projects already ongoing.
Okay, that's, any discussion on that?
Is stipulating they have to share that with Pickens County, is that good enough for the other chambers to have access to?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because I was sitting here thinking, and I was wondering if the attorney might speak up, because that's the part of my brain that's firing, is exactly what you're saying. That it should be stated that it's shared with us for uses we deem appropriate,
Ah, good.
not just only shared with you. We'll make sure that's, because I think you're.
I would also make the distribution periodic over the year rather than all at once, so that you can enforce it. If you don't, you can't enforce it.
I like it.
I don't understand.
But
So-
you're gonna have it's a purchase price.
Well, they're gonna buy it anyway, I would assume.
Yeah.
So I would say that you distribute the money over the year so that you have some need in how you make sure that they share it. If they don't share it, what are you gonna do? You don't
Just
give
gave
them
the
more money.
$2,000 already, yeah.
Right.
Gotcha, okay.
That was actually gonna be one of my questions.
Yeah, and I'll give the chamber of out. If they decide we don't want this, then we can allocate the 10K back as you'll recommend it. But from the conversation I had today, they seemed excited to be able to share this.
Do you need to talk to them to make sure they're willing to do this before we say, okay, let's go ahead and do it?
It sounds like Counselor Linville's already done that, so
I mean,
we'll go with her.
Brian was really excited about sharing this.
All right.
Call me anytime, we'll show you this stuff.
So that's.
But we'll see how the relationships work out.
They're telling a different version. It's like,
Yeah, that's
they
true.
weren't willing. So.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, it was just in the application, that's not what the intent looked like.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean that they weren't willing to, just
Okay.
maybe didn't put it in something.
If you want me to table this to the 5th,
No,
I
I
can.
just don't want to get the cart in front of the horse.
Well, if they just don't do it, then they don't get the money.
Yeah.
It's tied in. It sounds like they're going.
I guess come back to us. If y'all if any of us talk to them and they say that's not really what we meant, then I'll change it.
Mr. Chairman, worst case, we can always reallocate the 10,000 on May 5th if Clemson comes back before May 5th and says we don't want to do it. So
That sounds good.
That sounds good.
Any other questions? You understand how to implement that, Mr. Roper?
Yes, sir.
Okay, those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Okay. Next item up is the 65% funding application.
Yes, so this one was a little more difficult for the committee. As you can see, we had requests totaling just over $1.2 million for approximately $220,000 available. So the committee had a very difficult task ahead of them, not only going line by line through the budgets provided for each application, but also just to see if they were eligible at all. The first 7 on the list did not attend the mandatory workshop. Now, this was deemed mandatory by the ATAX committee. Should council feel that those should be considered, completely up to your discretion. But this is how the committee chose to approach them based on the amount requested. So if you'd like any more information on those applications.
Did you feel they had a fair enough notice and opportunity?
Yes, and some of these were repeat applicants, and that notice went to them directly, at
Gotcha.
least twice.
And did any of them
And they
reach
still
out to you and say, we can't make the meeting, but please consider us XYZ?
No, we did have 1 or 2 say we might not be able to make it, and if they did reach out and request it, we provided the presentation if they gave a valid reason, like something happened and they couldn't make it. But these did not respond at all. So just to keep it simple. That was the committee's recommendation there. And then a couple of them, how they applied, maybe chose the wrong category, and the committee tried to kind of work through, maybe they didn't mean it that way, or they scrolled on the application, on the screen. That can happen, right? And so tried to look at, well, would they be eligible for a different category? And I don't know if it was provided in your packet. I don't think it was, but there are 6 funding categories for 65%. And so we required them to choose on their application which one they were applying for. Some of them, it was more than one category. Understandably, we told them just to combine that on one application to keep it simple. And so the committee looked at those specific categories to see. One that some people tend to get caught up on is a tourism-related event.
Yeah.
So what ATAX, the expenses eligible for ATAX are related to promotion of the event, so advertising and marketing for the event, not entertainment or stages or those kinds of things. So a lot of people just take that to mean, oh, everything we do in this event is covered, and that is not the case. And we were extremely specific about that in the workshop because it's something that has come up a lot in the past. So the committee was very careful in looking at those under category 2 to make sure they only recommended funding for the promotion piece of those.
That's for all the 65%, it's only the promotion that gets funded?
For events. If they applied as an event, it's only the promotion of the event that's eligible. So rentals of things. Yes, we do allow for restrooms because that's a life safety concern. If you don't have restrooms, then that's not great. That's also part of public services as well. So based on all of those items, you'll see most of them listed will say whether they meet the criteria or not. And then the number provided on the recommendation is A, what they're eligible for, and then B, based on the amount of funding available, what the committee recommended. So they could have been eligible for more, but there's just not enough money in the fund to cover everything. And we will do our best to answer any specific questions you may have on any of them.
Let me ask you a question. The 65% money, can the county apply for it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it says the criminal justice system, law enforcement, fire protection, solid waste collection, yada, yada. How does that relate? I'm reading from the law.
So if there's an event, let's say there's an event somewhere, and y'all correct me if I get this wrong, because y'all been into this, and we need to do special services with fire or police or whatever, that you can recapture some of that way.
We've done that.
And I don't know if we've done it specifically under that application before.
The county has not. It was considered, but never done.
So what other vehicles would the county say we're going to apply? Which one of these 6?
Mostly yes, we did, and the museum did apply this year. That's correct.
Right.
So that was under tourism-related activities. So we've done that for trail construction. In the past, we did some improvements out at Mile Creek around the cabins.
Because we have 5 going on 6 parks now.
That's right.
Right. Typically, we wait to see and allow other organizations to apply, and then if there's any remaining funding, we'll put in an application. Now that we have access to 50% of the local ATAX each year, we've tried to do most of our park-related projects from that. But there's not enough to cover everything, which is why we encourage the museum to go ahead and apply.
Sure. Anybody have any questions about these applicants?
The museum, attend the mandatory meeting.
Let me ask you
Is it
this.
held at the museum?
No, it's held right here in this room.
It's very specific what they use this for. I'm going to go back to my same question I did before. Do you get an itemized list of what they spend this money on?
Yes.
Yes.
And if we don't, then we typically go back to them and ask them to provide additional information.
Like, do you remember I asked you at the beginning about the 30% money from the Lake Hartwell? Was there an itemized list in their application? Was there?
I can't find it
Yeah.
at this moment.
I didn't
I
find
do
it either.
believe they did submit that originally. I just couldn't put my hands on it.
I think what they did is they kind of gave categories of how they would spend that future money.
Mm-hmm.
But when I looked for last year's, And actually, when you look at the law does say, is accountability in there. There's a piece in there that says, let's see, at the end of the fiscal year, an organization receiving funds shall render an accounting of the expenditure to the county which distributed them. Is that right?
Yes.
Are any of these people doing this?
So they haven't yet because on 30% because they haven't spent it all yet. So what we do is for ATAX
over the years.
Yeah, we request a follow-up form from every applicant or from every recipient. So if you get funds, you're required to submit a follow-up form 30 days after the funding is spent. And if you haven't done it within the year, they're required to send an update. For 30%, we, just like we submit documents to the state on 65, we do the same for 30%. So those recipients in the past, we've requested them to fill out that information, we verify it, and then we send it into the state.
And it's being done?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So all you know. Okay. Anything else?
I have a question. Somewhere I read in y'all's list, I can't find it right now, that you define a tourism event as attracting people from more than 50 miles away.
That's the state definition of a tourist.
Okay, that's really tricky here, because when you go back and look at one of those data sheets provided to Thompson, like Greenville is a huge provider of our tourism dollars in terms of spending money in restaurants and stuff. That's not 50 miles away for most of the county. So do we really think that people are coming, I don't mean to target this, but it's one, the Pickens Summer Concert Series is a summer concert series held in downtown Pickens. Do we think people are driving more than 50 miles to come to the Pickens Summer Concert Series?
Southern Gospel Night they are.
I mean, it depends on the band and
and part of it too is also they say literally in there, this is a community event for our families. So if we really started going through what makes someone come here and spend the night, which is where the real money is, at least eat in a few restaurants, some of these I don't feel like they totally qualify.
And everything that they asked for did not. And I remember specifically the committee being pretty drilled down on where these people were coming from.
Yes.
And leaving some stuff out because of that. And again, this is where that data would be super helpful because I don't know how they're tracking that now in the city. They were not able to provide detailed data.
Okay, so like, I remember the tennis tournament that's in Clemson. I mean, that talks about literally people have to stay all week and sleep there and eat at the restaurants. That is generating ATAX money.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I just learned from what you said earlier, that doesn't apply because they weren't asking for money to promote it. They were asking for money to actually put it on.
Correct.
So
everything in their request was not for the correct
promotion of it. Okay.
Yeah.
The budget submitted, nothing in the budget would have been eligible for ATAX funding.
And we requested from every applicant their overall budget and then their itemized budget specific to the ATAX request so that we knew exactly what they were asking for ATAX for.
Yeah. It's tricky. It's like the Climbers Festival, they weren't there at the meeting, but we know that people drive in for that. They've got that.
They were a late applicant too. They came in, I want to say maybe a few weeks before the deadline, and I think inquired about it.
I know we funded them in the past,
but they didn't attend, unfortunately.
They got recreation funding last year.
Oh, rec funding. Yeah, and that's tricky too. I've had groups call me, don't know which category. But yeah, I think that's my only interrogation of this is if we actually define a tourist as 50 miles away. I think a lot of these are lovely community events. It is hard to say that they are legally large tourism events.
We do not disagree.
Councilor Holloway.
Looking at the committee comments that did not attend the mandatory ATAX workshop, there appears to be just a lot of money left on the table because they didn't show up for this one. So the question is, what is the procedure in getting the notification that this is a mandatory workshop to these entities? What exactly is that procedure?
So we combined every application we've received since I've been working at the county So, well, from records I had, so from 2019, every applicant received 2 emails notifying them of the workshop. We did a press release, and it was on social media 2 or 3 times, I believe, notifying them. And if we knew they were interested, like, you know, somebody had said an offhand comment one time, I added them to the list. Like, we tried to reach everybody that we knew. And several of these groups got the invitation and just.
Yeah, I just thought it was amazing. One of the requests was $294,000. It looks like you would show up for a meeting from that.
Right.
And again, we don't have that kind of funding to
Right.
give out, but we were encouraged by the amount of applications and that there were some new applicants. So word got out to some people. But
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve the recommendations of the committee as in the packet. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. We are at the end of the agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second? Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank y'all.